Hello everybody. Today something about maths. I will show you the basics on how to solve quadratic equations. So it's you may need this purely in maths, but also in physics. A lot of problem and with solving quadratic equations. So I will show you how to do this by some simple examples. So here is our first example: x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. This is an example of quadratic equation. So in general, the quadratic equation is an equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where x is our variable, our unknown, a, b, and c are just the numbers. So in our case, you can see that a is 1, b is minus 5, and c is 6. Okay? So the basic method of solving quadratic equations starts with calculating delta, or the discriminant of the quadratic equation. So delta is the Greek letter which looks like a triangle. So delta is calculated by b squared minus 4 times a times c. So in our case, delta would be b squared, so minus 5 squared, minus 4 times 1 times 6. So that's minus 5 squared, 25, minus 24, so that's 1. Okay? And then there are three possible cases. So first case, if delta is positive, so greater than 0, then the equation has two solutions. If it's equal to 0, then there is only one solution. And if delta is negative, so less than 0, then the equation has no solutions. Okay, so in our case, you see that delta is 1, so it's greater than 0, so that's the first case. So the equation has two solutions. And here is a recipe how to find these solutions. So the solution x is minus b plus or minus square root of delta divided by 2a. So first we have two solutions. So in first solution you use minus sign here. For the second solution you take plus here. Okay, so let's call first solution x1. So minus b would be 5, because minus minus 5 is plus 5, minus square root of delta. If delta is 1, then square root of delta is also 1, so 5 minus 1 over 2a, so over 2 times 1, so over 2, so it's 4 over 2, so it's 2. So 2 is the first solution. And how about x2? x2, it's the only change is that here you use plus sign instead of minus sign. So it's 5 plus 1 over 2, so it's 6 over 2, so now it's 3. So these are the solutions of this equation. You can check that these are the solutions. So if you plug in this number in place of x to the left hand side of the equation, you should get the right hand side. So let's check it for x1. So left hand side is 2 squared, okay, minus 5 times 2 plus 6. So I just put 2 in place of x here, okay? So that's what? That's 4 minus 10 plus 6. And 4 minus 10 is minus 6, plus 6 is 0, and that's exactly the right hand side of the equation. So everything is fine. We have checked that 2 is indeed the solution of this equation. Usually you don't want to do this, but this was just to show you an example that the method given by just some little algorithm, by some formulas, that it works. Okay, alright, here is our second example of the quadratic equation. So again, let's start with calculating delta. So delta would be b squared, so minus 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4. So it's 16 minus 16, so it's 0. So now delta is 0, so that's the second case. So we have only one solution of our quadratic equation, but I gave you the formula for two solutions. So how to get only one of them? But look, if delta is 0, then square root of delta is also 0, because square root of 0 is 0. So doesn't matter if I add or subtract 0, it gives the same result, right? So minus b minus 0 is minus b, and minus b plus 0 is also minus b. So these two solutions become only one, become a single one. Okay, so our solution will be minus b 4 plus or minus 0, so still 4, divided by 2 times 1, so by 2, so that's 2. 2 is the only solution of this equation. Okay, you can also solve this another way, this particular case with delta equals 0, if you know the short multiplication formulas. So it's something like a minus b squared, where a and b are some expressions. They have nothing common with this a and b, that's just some another a and b. So it's a squared minus 2ab plus b squared, as you may know. So if you take a equals x and b equals 2, then if you plug them into this right hand side of this formula, then you precisely get this x squared minus 4x plus 4. So you understand that this is equal to a minus b squared, so to x minus 2 squared. So x minus 2 squared is equals to 0. So if a number squared equals 0, then this number itself, so what's inside the bracket, has to be also equal 0, because it's 0 squared, which gives you 0. So okay, x minus 2 equals 0, so now you see that x equals 2. Okay, here is another example of quadratic equation. So once again, let's calculate delta. So delta is 1 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6, so it's 1 minus 24, so that will be minus 23, but the important thing is that it is less than 0, it's negative, so it's our third case, delta negative, so the equation has no solutions. I need to emphasize that this is for x being real number. If you work in complex numbers, then this would be different. The equation would have the solutions, but the complex numbers are beyond the scope of this video, so we solve the quadratic equations in real numbers. So assuming that x is real, in this case the equation has no solutions. Okay, so the answer would be no solutions. Okay, another example, x squared plus 4 equals 0. So this is also quadratic equation because you have x squared. Well, you can say I don't have bx term, but you can think of b equals 0 in this case, okay? B equals 0. If you put 0 here, 0x is 0, so you end up with ax squared plus c equals 0. Okay, in this case you still can calculate delta and say that this is okay, 0 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4, so that's 0 minus 16, so minus 16, so that's also negative, so this equation also have no solutions, also has no solutions. You can also solve this one maybe simpler without calculating delta if you just move 4 to the other side of the equation, then you get that x squared equals minus 4, and you can ask yourself what's number that if you square it then you get minus 4, and the answer is there is no real number which after being squared becomes minus 4 or becomes negative. So from this you also see that there are no solutions. But if you make a little change and your equation is x squared minus 4 equals 0, then it will have the solution, which you can see again by calculating delta. So b is still 0, but now it's minus 4 times 1 times minus 4. So you have two minuses, so it's plus 16. Okay, so it's positive. So you have two solutions. And you can find them that x1 is minus b, so 0. Square root of so if delta is 16, then square root of delta is 4, so it's 0 minus 4 over 2, so it's minus 2, and x2 will be 0 plus 4 over 2, so will be plus 2. You can also solve this one in another way, so just by moving 4 to the other side, so x squared equals 4, and you ask yourself which real number squared gives you 4, and the obvious answer is 2, like, because 2 squared is 4. But that's not the end of the story, because also minus 2 squared also gives you 4. So you need to be careful, because this has two solutions. Okay, you can maybe better see this if you know the again short multiplication formulas, and there is a formula that a plus b times a minus b equals a squared minus b squared. So this is a squared, this is b squared, so a is x, b is 2, because 2 squared is 4. So a plus b will be x plus 2, a minus b will be x minus 2 equals 0. So now bracket times bracket equals 0 means this bracket is 0 or this bracket is 0. So x plus 2 is 0 or x minus 2 is 0. So from this you get that x is minus 2, from this you get that x is plus 2, and you find your two solutions, no doubts. So that's all about solving, like basics of solving quadratic equations. So now I think you should be able uh, to solve them, and no worries when you see a quadratic equation. If it's more complicated, but if you can move everything to one to one side of the equation, and after some um, simplifications you end up with equation of this kind, then you can follow this little algorithm, this method to solve the equation.